My night shift at the airport has rules. I just broke all three. The job paid well, but the list of rules they gave me was my first and only warning. It's funny what you'll ignore for an extra $4 an hour plus benefits. The job posting was for overnight security coordinator at the regional airport. It sounded official, but everyone knew what it was. Walking around an empty building for 8 hours and making sure no one tried to sleep on the baggage carousels. I was replacing a guy named Dave, who looked like he hadn't slept since the 90s. His eyes were wide, yellowed, and his hands wouldn't stop shaking. He walked me through the basics: clocking in, the patrol route, the boiler room, the useless CCTV bank. On my first night, just before he clocked out for the last time, he handed me a laminated card from his own wallet. It was worn, the edges soft and gray. "This is the real job, Mark," he said, his voice a dry rasp. "The route, the cameras, that's just busy work. This," he tapped the card, "this is the job." I took it. It was a simple typed list. Nightly protocol, Terminal B. Rule 1, routine patrol of Concourse C is required. However, if you see a passenger at Gate C13 staring at the wall, do not interact. Do not speak to them. Do not approach. Do not acknowledge. They missed their flight. Complete your patrol and leave the concourse. Rule 2. The PA system is automated and operates on a closed loop. If it announces a flight to a city that doesn't exist, for example Sonderburg, New Samarkand, Ethelberg, immediately cease your patrol. Lock yourself in the main break room, staff ID required, and do not leave until the announcements stop. Rule 3. The beige internal phones at the gate desks and security stations are for internal use only and are not connected to an outside line. If one rings, do not answer. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "Okay, Dave, real funny. Hazing the new guy?" Dave didn't laugh. He just stared at me with those ruined eyes. "This place, it's a junction, Mark. Things get stuck here, like in a drain. You follow these, you'll be fine. You don't... Well, I'm moving to Arizona. I'm never getting on a plane again, but I'm going to live somewhere with no goddamn rain." He grabbed his jacket, swiped his card, and was gone. The heavy steel door sighed shut behind him, leaving me alone in the sterile, buzzing silence of Terminal B. For the first 2 weeks, it was the easiest job I'd ever had. It was just quiet. The kind of profound, heavy quiet that only exists in places built for thousands of people, but which currently hold only one. My footsteps echoed. The cleaning crews were in Terminal A until 1 a.m., and then it was just me until the first TSA agents arrived at 4:30. The silence was the perfect companion. I had a mountain of credit card debt from a failed business venture, and the quiet gave me time to listen to financial podcasts and plan my escape. The rules on the card seemed like a distant joke. I'd walked Concourse C every night. It was always empty. The PA system played the same loop of "please do not leave baggage unattended" and soft jazz. The beige phones were coated in a fine layer of dust. It was on a Tuesday, 3 weeks in, that the first rule was tested. It was 2:17 a.m. I was in Concourse C, the long hallway of gates stretching out before me, the floor-to-ceiling windows showing nothing but blackness and the distant winking blue lights of the runway. I turned the corner, towards C13, and my blood went cold. There was someone there. She was sitting in one of the hard plastic chairs, facing away from me, staring directly at the wall where the gate door was. She was a woman, wearing a simple blue dress, her dark hair in a neat bun. She was perfectly, unnaturally still. My first instinct, my guard instinct, kicked in. "Ma'am, the terminal's closed. How did you get in here?" I took 2 steps toward her. Rule 1, if you see a passenger at Gate C13 staring at the wall, do not interact. I froze. My voice died in my throat. Dave's shaking hands flashed in my memory. They missed their flight. I stood there for maybe a full minute. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. I couldn't even see the slight rise and fall of her shoulders. She was just there. A smell hit me. It was faint but sharp, like old wet pennies and something like burnt sugar. I backed away, slowly. I didn't take my eyes off her until I was around the corner. I walked fast back to the main concourse, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I got to the security hub, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. I spent the rest of the night in the CCTV room, even though I knew the cameras in Concourse C were just a grainy, static-filled loop of an empty gate. The next night, I saved Concourse C for last. I was dreading it. I told myself she was a vagrant, someone who'd slipped past day security and had been sleeping there. But I knew that was bullshit. Every door was alarmed. I was the only one in the terminal. I turned the corner. She was gone. The chairs at C13 were empty. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I felt like an idiot. It was hazing. Dave had probably hired someone to sit there on his last night, just to screw with me. I was smiling, shaking my head at my own stupidity, when the phone at the C13 gate desk rang. It was a shrill, piercing, old-fashioned ringing that cut through the silence like a knife. Rule 3. If one rings, do not answer. My feet were rooted to the spot. It rang again and again. It was a beige phone, the kind with the heavy receiver and the curly cord, covered in that same layer of dust. But it was ringing. I stared at it. Every part of me wanted to pick it up, to scream, "Who is this?" into it. It felt insistent, personal. I turned and walked away. I didn't run, but it was close. I could hear it ringing all the way down the concourse, until I passed the food court, and the sound was finally swallowed by the architecture. I didn't file a report. What would I say? A phone that isn't connected to anything rang, and I got scared? They'd fire me and hire someone else who wasn't afraid of bad wiring. But I was scared. For the first time, I was genuinely, deeply scared. The next month was a descent into a specific kind of madness. The terminal wasn't just quiet anymore, it was waiting. The silence was heavy, like a blanket soaked in water. I started seeing things in the periphery, a shadow moving in the reflective glass of a closed Sparrow. The baggage carousel in the empty arrivals hall suddenly lurching to life, spinning slowly, empty for 10 minutes, before stopping again. The automatic walkways moving. Backward. I became obsessed with the rules. I tried to find a rational explanation. For Rule 1, I looked up the terminal blueprints. Gate C13 didn't exist. The map showed C11, C12, and then a large blocked-off section marked Storage Annex 1988. But I'd been there, I'd seen the chairs, the gate sign, the woman. It was as real as the rest of the terminal. For Rule 3, I had the dayside maintenance guy check the phone at C13. He laughed at me. Check what, man? That whole concourse wing is on a dead switch. Nothing past C10 has had power or data since they built the new terminal. Those phones are props. He popped the back of the phone. It was hollow. No wires, no circuit board, just a plastic shell. He left and I stared at the hollow plastic box that I had heard ringing. But it was Rule 2 that finally broke me. It was a Thursday. A storm was raging outside, rain lashing against the giant windows. The wind howled, and the whole building seemed to groan under the pressure. I was on edge. The weather always made the terminal feel thinner. At 3:03 a.m., the PA system clicked to life. That familiar soft bing-bong. I paused, waiting for the unattended baggage spiel. A voice came on. Not the usual pleasant female recording. This was a man's voice. It was old, saturated with static, like a broadcast from a 1940s radio. Final boarding call for Arcanum Airways. Flight 771 to Sonderburg. All passengers, please proceed to Gate C13. Final call. Sonderburg. Rule 2. If it announces a flight to a city that doesn't exist, immediately cease your patrol. Lock yourself in the main break room. I looked around. The terminal was dark, the only light coming from the emergency exit signs and the flashing blue runway lights outside. Sonderburg. I pulled out my phone. I Googled it. Nothing. A small town in Denmark, but not a city. No airport. Certainly not one serviced by Arcanum Airways. My heart was in my throat. The break room was a 5-minute walk, back across the sky bridge to the central hub. The PA clicked on again. We invite all remaining passengers for Sonderburg to proceed to the gate. The doors are closing. Do not miss your flight. The voice was persuasive. It felt warm. It felt like home. I had a sudden, overwhelming urge to go to C13, to see the flight, to see who was boarding. Lock yourself in the break room. No, this was it. This was the hazing. It was a recording Dave set up. It was a test. If I ran and hid, I'd look like a fool. I straightened my tie. I was a security guard. I was going to secure the concourse. I walked toward Concourse C. It was the worst mistake of my life. The air got colder as I walked. The buzzing of the lights seemed to get louder, matching the ringing in my own ears. The rain on the windows sounded less like rain and more like tapping. Millions of tiny fingers drumming on the glass, trying to get in. We know you're waiting, Mr. Harris, the PA crackled. He used my last name. We have a seat for you. Flight 771, Sonderburg. We are holding the door. I started to run, but my legs felt like lead. I wasn't running to C13. I was running from the voice. I fumbled for my keycard, my destination no longer the gate, but the break room. I had to get to the break room. Don't you want to see? Don't you want to know where they go? I burst through the double doors into the central hub. The break room was just ahead. I ran, swiped my card, and threw myself inside, slamming the door and locking it. The room was tiny. A sink, a microwave, 3 lockers, and a table. I collapsed into a chair, breathing hard. Through the heavy door, I heard the PA system. The voice had changed. It was no longer persuasive. It was furious. It wasn't a voice anymore. It was a scream. A mechanical, multi-layered roar of static and rage that vibrated the walls. It was saying words, but they were in a language I didn't know. A language of broken glass and tearing metal. And under it, I heard the beige phones. All of them. Not just one, dozens, hundreds. Ringing from every gate all at once, a deafening, discordant symphony that joined the scream. I put my hands over my ears and squeezed my eyes shut. I stayed there, shaking, until the sun came up. I tried to quit. The next day, I walked into my supervisor's office at 4 p.m., ready to turn in my badge. You look terrible, Mark, she said, not looking up from her monitor. I quit. She sighed. She finally turned to me. Is it the terminal? I just stared at her. Look, she said, leaning forward. It's an old building. It makes noise. The PA system is ancient and crosses signals with the tower sometimes. The phones are weird, we know. But the pay is good, and you just have to sit there. Dave lasted 3 years. You've been here 2 months. Just take a paid night off. Come back Friday. It'll be fine. The PA called me by my name. She gave me a pitying look. It said passengers. You are tired. You misheard. She gestured to my desk. Your new rate is on the memo. Night differential just went up another $2. Think about it. $2 more. That would clear my debt in 6 months. I thought about it. I thought about the screaming PA and the ringing phones. And I thought about the debt. I went home, slept, and came back on Friday. I was a goddamn fool. For a while, things were quiet. I followed the rules. I never went to Concourse C. I kept my radio on, blasting a talk radio station to drown out the silence. But the terminal was different. It knew I had heard. It knew I was scared. The lights in the hallways would flicker off as I approached, plunging me into darkness, only to snap back on behind me. The reflections in the windows didn't always match. I'd glance at the glass and see my reflection, but it would be delayed. It would turn its head a second after I did. I was losing my mind, but the paychecks were clearing. Then came last night. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was tired of being afraid. Maybe I had to prove that I wasn't crazy. I went to Concourse C. It was 1:30 a.m. The terminal was dead quiet. I walked down the long hall. I turned the corner to C13. She was there, the woman in the blue dress, staring at the wall. Rule 1, do not interact. I stood there, my heart pounding. The air was thick with that smell of pennies and burnt sugar. Who are you? She didn't move. What do you want? What flight did you miss? Nothing. I took a step closer, and another. I was 10 feet away from her. I could see the fine hairs on the back of her neck. Please, I said, my voice shaking. Just look at me. And then I saw him. He was new. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, was standing by the pillar, half hidden. He was wearing pajamas with little rocket ships on them. He was crying, silent tears streaming down his face. This wasn't a rule. The rules said a passenger, not a child. My fear was instantly replaced by a wave of protective instinct. This was a real kid. He must have wandered off from his parents, fallen asleep in a play area, and been left behind. Hey, buddy, I said softly, ignoring the woman completely. I knelt. Hey, it's okay. Are you lost? The little boy looked at me. His eyes were huge and terrified. He sniffled and pointed, his little hand shaking. He was pointing at the woman. Is that your mom? I asked. He nodded, tears welling up again. She won't wake up. My blood ran cold again. They missed their flight. What's your name, kid? Leo, he whispered. Okay, Leo, I'm Mark. I'm going to help. Let's go see your mom. I broke rule 1. I walked right up to the woman, with the boy holding my hand. His hand was freezing cold. Ma'am, I said louder this time. I put my hand on her shoulder. The moment my fingers touched the fabric of her dress, 2 things happened at once. First, the PA system exploded to life. Not the static voice, not the scream. It was a bright, cheerful digital chime. Bing bong. Now boarding flight 771 to Sunderberg. We are now boarding at Gate C13. Second, the woman turned around. I wish I could scream, but the air was sucked from my lungs. She didn't have a face. It wasn't gory, it wasn't bloody, it was just smooth, like a mannequin, but made of pale, soft skin. There were no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a blank, horrifying canvas. I fell backward, pulling the boy with me. But the boy, he wasn't a boy anymore. I looked down. His hand in mine was no longer small and fleshy. It was long and gray, and the fingers were jointed like a spider's leg. I looked at his face. It was melting. The features were running down his skull like hot wax, smoothing over, becoming blank and featureless, just like the woman. We are now boarding, the PA sang. The beige phone at the C13 desk rang. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I ran like I've never run in my life. I sprinted down the concourse, but the hallway was wrong. It was stretching. The food court at the end seemed to be getting farther away, not closer. Please do not run in the terminal, the PA chimed. The lights went out. All of them, plunging me into absolute terrifying darkness. I couldn't even see the exit signs. I stopped, gasping, my heart about to burst. Then the phone in my pocket vibrated. It wasn't my radio, it was my personal cell phone. I ripped it out, the screen a sudden blinding light in the blackness. It was an incoming call. The caller ID was just one word, terminal. I threw the phone. It clattered against a wall and the screen went dark. We are sorry, your connection has been lost, the PA whispered, the voice right in my ear. I was trapped. I didn't know which way to go. I was hyperventilating, choking on the smell of ozone and pennies. Please, I sobbed. Please just leave me alone. The beige phone at the C13 desk. It was close. I hadn't moved. I was still right there. The running had been an illusion. The featureless woman was standing in front of me. The boy was standing next to her, a perfect child-sized blank mannequin. More were coming. From the other gates, C11, C12, C14 passengers, dozens of them. All blank, all silent, all walking slowly, converging on me. They were all wearing clothes from different eras. A pilot in a 1960s uniform, a woman in a 1980s power suit, a teenager with a flannel shirt tied around his waist. All of them blank, all of them staring at me without eyes. They formed a circle around me. They weren't touching me, they were just waiting. The phone at the desk kept ringing. Rule 3, if one rings, do not answer. I looked at the blank faces. I looked at the ringing phone. I was already dead. I was already gone. What did one more rule matter? I pushed past the woman. Touching her was like pushing my hand into a bag of cold, wet sand, and lunged for the desk. I grabbed the heavy plastic receiver. Hello? I screamed into it. Who are you? What do you want? The line was silent. No static, no hum, just absolute perfect vacuum-like silence. I held it to my ear, my whole body shaking. And then a soft, pleasant, automated female voice, the original PA voice, spoke clearly in my ear. Thank you for holding. Your connection has been confirmed. Welcome to Sunderberg. The receiver melted in my hand. It turned to a thick, warm, gray liquid that ran down my arm. The blank people all turned in unison. They walked to the gate, which was now open. But it didn't open onto a jet bridge. It opened onto fog. A thick, gray, swirling fog that pulsed with a faint blue light. The woman without a face stopped in the doorway and turned to me. I felt it. She was beckoning. I had missed my flight. No, I was on my flight. I am writing this. I don't know how. I'm in the break room, but it's not the break room. It's C13. It's just Gate C13 forever. The windows are just gray fog. The PA system is playing that soft jazz. The woman is here. The boy is here. We are all here. We're just waiting. A new guard just started. I can see her through the window. Her name is Sarah. She's young. She looks nervous. She just walked past the gate. She glanced in. She can't see us. Not yet. I'm so tired. I think I'm just going to sit. The wall looks interesting. It's just a wall, but it feels peaceful. I think I'll just sit here and stare at the wall for a while. I missed my connection. I missed my flight. What's the weirdest rule you've ever had at a job? And did you find out why it existed? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.